The reflexive nature of human goals, a critique of Mises' rationality. Ludwig von Mises, in his formulation of the Austrian theory of human action, presents a view of rationality based on subjective value, where individuals act to achieve goals they consciously value, making decisions based on their personal preferences. However, this framework assumes a level of control over our goals and desires that is fundamentally at odds with the way humans are biologically programmed by evolution. The critique here is that ultimate human goals are not truly subjective, but are instead reflexive, deeply ingrained, instinctual responses shaped by evolutionary pressures. 1. Ultimate goals, programmed, not chosen. At the core of this critique is the argument that humans do not fully control what they ultimately desire, the end goals of our actions. These ultimate goals, such as the avoidance of pain or the pursuit of social status and reproduction, are the result of evolutionary programming. Over millions of years, evolution has shaped our instincts to prioritize survival, reproduction, and comfort. These primal goals are reflexive in nature, and we have little to no control over them. For example, the instinct to avoid pain is not a preference we consciously choose, but rather a deeply ingrained, biologically driven response to ensure our survival. Likewise, the pursuit of pleasure often leads us to behaviors that have historically been crucial for our survival, such as eating or seeking companionship. These instincts are the ultimate goals we pursue, but they are not consciously selected. Instead, they are biologically programmed responses to environmental pressures, ensuring the continuation of our species. Mises' theory of subjective value fails to account for the fact that many of the ultimate goals we pursue are not products of rational choice, but of evolution's design. 2. The means, rational selection within evolutionary constraints. While our ultimate goals are reflexive, the means we use to achieve these goals are deliberate and rational. Human beings, equipped with higher cognitive abilities, can consciously choose the methods or tools to pursue their ultimate ends. We may choose a career path, social strategies, or investment opportunities, but these choices are always aimed at achieving the primal goals that evolution has wired into us. These means, while rational and deliberate, are intermediate goals, representing a calculated approach to achieving the ultimate ends programmed by evolution. For example, we may choose to acquire wealth or education not for their own sake, but because these are perceived as means to increase our social status or ensure security, goals that are rooted in evolutionary imperatives. Thus, while we can rationally choose the tools and methods to reach these ends, the ends themselves are fixed by biological drives, not by individual rational deliberation. This distinction is crucial because it highlights the limitation of Mises' framework. Mises assumes that individuals act rationally based on their subjective values and that these values are fully self-determined. But this assumption neglects the fact that the ultimate goals, the end goals that drive human action, are shaped by biological evolution, not by individual rational choice. What we desire at the deepest level is already programmed into us, and our ability to choose alternative ends is severely limited. 3. Reflexive nature of pleasure and pain. Mises' theory of human action also relies on the notion that individuals act to maximize utility based on their subjective preferences. However, our preferences, especially those related to pleasure and pain, are not the result of conscious choice. They are reflexive responses to evolutionary stimuli designed to maximize survival. We experience pleasure when we engage in behaviors that historically increased our chances of survival, and we experience pain as a protective mechanism to avoid harm. These reflexive experiences of pleasure and pain are not subjective in the way Mises assumes. They are hardwired reactions that operate independently of rational decision-making. For example, the aversion to eating something harmful, like glass, is not based on a rational evaluation of the consequences. It is a biologically ingrained response that evolved to protect us from harm. In this way, ultimate goals such as the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure are not consciously chosen or subjectively determined. They are driven by evolutionary imperatives that predate individual rationality. 4. The illusion of full control over our goals. Mises' framework assumes that individuals are free agents who consciously select both their ends and means based on rational preferences. However, the critique presented here argues that ultimate goals, such as the avoidance of suffering, the pursuit of social status, or reproductive success, are not fully subjective but are reflexively programmed into us by evolutionary pressures. While the means we choose to achieve these goals can be rational and deliberate, the ultimate goals themselves are beyond our control. Humans may feel they have control over their preferences, but many of those preferences are pre-programmed by biology. This critique emphasizes that the illusion of control over ultimate goals is at odds with the reality of human evolution. What we desire most deeply is determined not by rational deliberation but by deep-seated biological drives that serve the survival of the species. 5. Mises' ulterior motive, the libertarian ideal of freedom. While Mises' theory of rationality is presented as a framework for understanding human action, there is an underlying ulterior motive in his advocacy of subjective value. By framing human action as rational and driven by subjective preferences, Mises not only defends a market-driven, laissez-faire economic model but also implicitly promotes an ideal of individual freedom, freedom from external coercion, including government interference. This framing is integral to his broader libertarian stance, which emphasizes autonomy and self-determination. However, the critique here suggests that Mises' emphasis on rational choice and subjective value may be more about justifying a particular political and economic system than accurately explaining human behavior. By promoting the idea that individuals are free to pursue their subjective goals, Mises aligns with a libertarian ideology that advocates for minimal governmental intervention. In this view, subjective value becomes a foundational justification for a free market where individuals are seen as autonomous agents making rational choices, while in reality, their ultimate goals are shaped by forces beyond their control. By presenting human behavior as fully rational and self-determined, Mises' theory provides a convenient narrative that supports the political and economic ideals of liberty and free markets. However, this view is incomplete, as it fails to account for the reflexive nature of our ultimate goals, which are shaped by evolution, not personal choice. In this sense, Mises' theory may be more of a philosophical tool for promoting political freedom than an accurate depiction of human decision-making. Conclusion. Mises' conception of human rationality, grounded in subjective value and the pursuit of consciously chosen goals, overlooks the profound role that evolutionary programming plays in shaping our ultimate desires. The ultimate goals of human action, such as the avoidance of pain or the pursuit of status, are reflexive and beyond individual control. While the means we choose to achieve these goals are deliberate, rational, and subject to personal choice. By failing to recognize the distinction between reflexive ultimate goals and rationally selected means, Mises' theory offers an incomplete view of human action. The critique presented here argues that our deepest desires are shaped by evolution, not subjective preferences, and that the rational decisions we make are limited by the ultimate ends that we are programmed to pursue. In addition, Mises' framing of rationality may be a convenient ideological tool designed to justify a broader libertarian political and economic agenda, rather than an objective analysis of human behavior.